All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So, in this video, I'm going to be doing a weekly forecast for the upcoming week. So, that means starting on Monday, June 1st, all the way to Friday, June 5th. So, let's start by looking at the economic calendar for this week. As you can see, on Monday, we have manufacturing PMI. On Tuesday, we have some GBP news, Australian dollar news. On Wednesday, we have services PMI. Then Thursday, again, GBP and Australian dollar. And finally, on Friday, we have NFP. Okay. So overall, I think it's going to be a good week in terms of volatility. But it's probably going to be like, I don't know, I expect the volatility to be at the beginning of the week. So probably like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then Thursday should most likely be a consolidation before NFP. And then Friday, we're going to get a lot of volatility coming in. And NFP this week is extremely important for the wider general macroeconomic situation because that's what we need to see. Did we create more jobs or did we lose jobs during the month of May? Okay, that's really important. And right now the forecast seems like we're going to be losing some jobs. So yeah, let's keep an eye on NFP. It's going to be a very interesting data coming out on Friday. So that's it for the economic calendar. So I think overall it's going to be a pretty good week. Now, if we start looking at the dollar, okay, so the dollar, remember we had this weekly fair value gap. Now, if we take a look, we can see that, oops, sorry, I'm just going to remove this. We can see that the first candle, so last week, was it's not a rejection, but at the same time, the wick is respecting. We closed above the fair value gap. So it's not very clear. I would say this candle, this last weekly candle that we got is mostly bearish, but overall we are still respecting that weekly fair value gap. So I mean, we can still continue higher from here. I can clearly see price continuing higher from that weekly fair value gap and potentially reaching this high, which is last week's high, basically. So two scenarios here. First scenario is that we just start going higher from here, or the second scenario, which I think is most likely. I mean, that's how price is set up right now. I think we're gonna come back, sweep the rejection low from last week, and then start moving higher. I think, in my opinion, this is the highest probability scenario. But overall, throughout the week, I think we're going to see higher prices for sure from this weekly fair value. If we look on the daily time frame, there's nothing really interesting here. And then on the 4 hour, yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense to me. You see this 4 hour fair value gap that we have right here. So again, the first candle is not a rejection, but we can still reject from that 4 hour fair value gap. And so I see price going lower, sweeping that weekly rejection low to then finally continue higher. Um, so yeah, so short term, I see lower prices on the dollar, and then more long term for the rest of the week, I see higher prices. Okay. So overall, yeah, the dollar's looking not too bad for this week. Let's take a look at the majors. So AU to continue higher, we have a next target up here on the weekly. On the daily, a closer target would be this fair value gap. Mm, Okay. I just don't like AU because, as I said, the dollar short term should be moving lower and then higher. So that means that AU would move higher and then lower. But the problem is that I don't see where we can reverse from. It could be from this daily fair value gap, but it's just not too clear. I honestly don't like it so much. Let's move on. Let's look if there's better setups here. So GU, it's honestly very similar to the dollar itself, so I do like that. Again, we are respecting the weekly fair value gap, and we left a rejection high right here. So perhaps we could come back higher, sweep this, and then continue lower. This is the same scenario, but inversed than on the dollar. And then on the daily time frame, there's nothing very significant here. Then the 4 hour, oh yeah, same scenario there on the dollar. I think we could potentially, have a sting back inside this 4 hour fair value gap. Then we start going higher, we sweep, and then we move lower. So GU is going on the interest list for sure for this week again. It's been on the interest list last week. We didn't get such a clear setup on GU. I mean, yeah, there was some opportunities here if you were able to catch them. I personally don't look at the forex pairs that much. I rather focus on gold, but sometimes it's nice to see, if there was a setup throughout the week, and there was one right here. Um, so now let's move on to EU. So EU again, very similar. It's again, I do like EU. The rejection high is quite far, but it's not impossible that we're gonna come all the way back up here, sweep it to continue lower. So to me, it's not impossible. It's definitely a scenario that could happen. And then on daily, nothing interesting, and then on the 4 hours, same thing. So yeah, I think overall, all the major pairs, well, all EU and GU for sure, they look exactly like the dollar, just inversed. And so I think that's what should be happening this week. NU, okay, so we had a very trending week. It's not like the other majors, but I think it's because we had a lot of New Zealand dollar news last week, and so maybe that's why it moved so much. But if the dollar's going higher, then NU should be going lower this week. So that to me is not interesting. It doesn't make sense right now what we're seeing here. So no, let's just skip this one. USD Canadian to continue higher. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. We do have a fair value gap here. It's tiny, but it's there. Um, let's put an alert. Okay, so yeah, USD Canadian does look good. We have two weekly fair value gaps. I think the most likely fair value gap to reverse price is this one, the first one. But I mean, it's possible that we go all the way back down to this one to then continue higher. We'll have to monitor and react in real time. But yeah, that looks good. And then we have a first target here. I do like USD Canadian. Does look good. Maybe even better than those two. We'll see. USD CHF. Mm, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's going lower. We don't want it to go lower, right? Because the bias on the dollar is long, so that's not interesting. And then finally, USD JPY. So, oh yeah, on USD JPY, we never got the retracement inside this weekly fair value gap, which now we can get this week. So the first target would be this high, so the previous week's high. And then if we get a retracement in here, we can continue higher. That also does look really good, just like USD Canadian. Yeah, I do like this. Well, we have four majors on the interest list. The rest are just not interesting. But I'm sure we're going to get at least one setup on one of these four majors here. But the dollar overall, I would say, yeah, definitely bullish for the week. So now gold, let's take a look at gold. So there's something funny happening here on gold. So the first thing is that on the weekly time frame, this candle that we got last week, it does look like an extremely bullish candle, but it kind of this entire move higher that we saw on Thursday and Friday, it kind of came from nothing. We didn't sweep anything here. We can look on lower time frames. We didn't sweep anything. So this move higher to does look suspicious to me, okay? And now the candle that we got on Friday, this candle on the daily time frame, it does look mostly bearish to me. And then if you look on the 4 hour, this entire move higher right here from this low to this high, we don't have a single 4 hour fair value gap. So that to me looks extremely weak, and I think we can definitely continue lower this week. So my bias this week on gold is bearish, even though it does seem a little bit like counterintuitive, but I am bearish. And one last thing I wanted to mention, if we use the replay tool, I don't know if you guys remember, but on Monday, I said, on the forecast on Monday, I said we can sweep this rejection high to then continue lower, which we never did. We never did at the beginning of the week. Instead, we swept this high, so the high of Monday, and then we continued lower from that right here. But then after that, we started going higher on Thursday and Friday, and then look what happened on Friday. We finally swept the rejection high that I was expecting to be swept. So that to me just showed there's just a lot of bearish signs right here. And then if we use the Fibonacci retracement on this thing, you can see that we uh, we swept and we started going lower from this area that is the golden area between the zero point 0.5 and the golden level right here. So to me, this does look extremely bearish, and we still have this low to reach. We haven't reached it yet. We still have to reach it. So this entire move higher here is suspicious. To me, it literally came from nothing. So now I see lower prices until we reach this low. Okay? So bearish on gold for the week. Silver, let's take a look at silver. Okay, so silver is not too clear. The past 2 weeks have been horrible. Big consolidations here. But overall, you can see the previous week, the week of May 11th, was extremely bearish, and I think we can still continue in that direction at least until we reach this low. That's the next logical target to be reached. So overall, silver, can we come all the way back up, sweep this rejection high to then continue lower? It doesn't look very likely because we are really far from this rejection high. But yeah, we could potentially go back higher a little bit, maybe sweep the previous day's high and then continue lower, but I just don't think we're gonna come all the way back up here like gold, for example. But yeah, overall bearish here. Yeah. And also something interesting is this 4 hour fair value, yep, has failed now. Like we can literally remove it. It has failed. One, two, three, four, five. 5 4 hour candles failed to reject from it. Well, this one had the rejection. This candle, because remember, this is the context high at this moment in time. Let's use the replay tool. At this moment in time, this is the target, and then we reach it and come all the way back down. So to me, um, this is extremely bearish because we just don't have any resistance going against us. And now the next target is this low and eventually this weekly low. So yeah, bearish also on silver. I just don't believe that we're gonna come all the way back up here to then continue lower. So yeah, that's it for silver. Now let's look at crude oil because crude oil again is extremely important. So I didn't really follow like the news very well this weekend, but I do know that Iran attacked, I think it was the UAE or something. They bombed, what was it again? I think it was like was it electrical plant or something? Anyways, it was like infrastructure that they struck. And so we all know there's not going to be a deal, okay? Because last week, what we've been seeing on crude oil last week, those lower prices, they were simply just the price was simply reacting to a potential deal, which will never be reached, okay? Unless the United States cuts all ties with Israel, because Israel are the real bad guys in this story. But okay, I'm not going to start being political here, but uh, all I'm trying to say is that this what we saw last week to me is fake. It is not backed up by any fundamentals and even technicals. And so right now, this week, I see higher prices, especially because of what happened throughout the weekend with Iran and the States. I just think that, they're not going to have reached a deal, and Trump is going to say that, we want a better deal than that, and then, oil is just going to open with a huge gap tonight to the upside. Well, maybe not a huge gap like last week, but I think it's definitely going to be a gap to the upside, and the overall week is going to be bullish. So yeah, last week I was wrong about crude oil. I Last week I said that we could continue higher from there, but obviously we didn't. So I'm a little bit pissed about that, but now it does make a lot of sense that we could continue higher from here. Because I mean, the barrel is $90 now. That's pretty low. Well, for the past like 2, 3 months, that's pretty low price. And so that's just a beautiful buying opportunity. Think about it. The war is not over, the strait is not opened. So if you see it from an investor, point of view, this is a great time to be buying. I was actually gonna buy tomorrow. I actually want to buy some Chevron. Look at Chevron. I'm gonna show you. Chevron is relatively low, okay? And yeah, I just think it's gonna keep going higher this week. Chevron or Exxon. Yeah, they're both of them are very similar. And so yeah, I strongly believe that these are gonna be the winners this week. We'll see. But let's go back to crude oil. So now on crude oil, what can happen? Well, we are simply sweeping this low, and we can continue higher from that. Okay? We'll have to see. We'll have to react. There is also another scenario which I don't really like, but it's possible, is that we actually have a monthly fair value gap down here at like $90 a barrel. We have a weekly fair value gap, a monthly fair value gap. And right now, it does seem like the month of May wants to trade back inside that monthly fair value gap. So maybe, I could be wrong again, and we start going even lower from here. And from this monthly fair value gap, that's where we start actually seeing the really, really bad oil prices. That's also a possibility. It's just not the one. It's just not the scenario that I would like to see this week. But it's possible. I just want to mention it that a retracement all the way back inside the monthly fair value gap is possible. So yeah, we'll have to react here on what happens on crude oil. But these are my two scenarios. Bitcoin still moving during the weekend. Well, look at the precision. You see we had this fair value area low, and we just had a sting into it, and now we're starting to move lower from it. But I still believe that probably tomorrow or Tuesday we're going to come back higher, have a sting inside this daily fair value gap to then continue lower. And then the weekly time frame, there's nothing interesting here. But yeah, I'm very bearish on Bitcoin this week. Definitely bearish. Okay. Now the indices, let's take a look. The indices, I think, are just going to keep going higher again this week, especially if oil keeps going lower. It's going to fuel the indices to the upside. It's hard for me to like kind of predict what's going to happen because we're already at an all-time high. But I think this week should be the last bullish week on the indices. I think after that, the next week, so the week, um, oh, it's not the right one. Okay, so June, starting on the 12th of June, the markets are going to crash. Okay, that's my prediction. Because it's SpaceX IPO and it's just going to destroy the markets. It's literally going to create such a huge imbalance in the indices that I think the overall market is going to crash. I think SpaceX is going to go up like probably 200% on its first day. I think that's clearly what's going to happen. But the rest of the market is going to crash because all the passive funds are going to be um, transited into SpaceX. And so until June 12th, I believe we're going to see higher prices on the indices, but on June 12th, everything's going to crash. There's no doubt in my mind about this. Okay? So we'll see. And then finally, let's take a look at the crosses. I'm going to try to go quickly. I know it's a little bit annoying looking at the crosses, but sometimes it's worth it. That's not great. CHF that could potentially, we are really close to reaching this target, which is at all-time high. That could be, okay, so two scenarios here. There's two scenarios. Either we create a daily fair value gap on Monday, so Monday consolidates, create a daily fair value gap, and on Tuesday we sting back into it to continue higher. That's the first scenario. Second scenario is that from this 4-hour fair value gap right here, so as early as tomorrow, we get the retracement back inside this weekly fair value gap, and then we move higher already without, creating the daily fair value gap. So these are my two scenarios, but that looks really interesting when, especially on crosses when we're so close to reaching, a major high. Um, that makes price really high probability. So yeah, CHF JPY not too bad. GBP JPY. mm, That's Nope, that's just not as good. So no. Euro JPY. So this weekly fair value gap definitely is getting disrespected. We can continue higher. This high has been reached. We have this high as a next target on the daily. Uh, it's not great. We don't really have any daily fair value gaps. I would want to wait for daily fair value gap here. I do prefer CHF JPY. Australian dollar JPY doesn't look too good. I mean, we're really close to the target, but maybe if you can manage to, find a very short-term trade in here, yeah, that could not be too bad. But for me, I'm not gonna bother looking at this. And then New Zealand JPY just exploded. Let's see, because now we've reached some major highs here, so price should be slowing down eventually. So I would want to wait here. Okay. Australian dollar CHF, not great. Consolidation, don't like this. Canadian dollar CHF, so that I didn't catch the trade. Well, I mean, I saw it. I kind of like took the trade virtually because I knew it was going to be good. And so it ended up playing out very well. This beautiful trade. We just um, we just reached the high, the low, sorry, and yeah, that's it. It delivered. It was beautiful. Where did I? It was right here actually. It was on Thursday during during the evening on Thursday. I saw this 1 hour for value gap that was created from this bigger 1 hour for value gap. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna put like a virtual trade right here. I think I covered, yeah, I covered something like this, and then I was aiming for, well, the low basically. So yeah, I didn't take this trade, but virtually I saw it happen in real time, and it ended up playing out very nicely. So I'm really happy. This Canadian dollar CHF had been on the interest list since last week's weekly forecast, and it ended up playing out. So that I'm really proud of that. Really good. But for now, I mean, yeah, it can stay on the interest list because for now, we can still create a daily fair value gap and continue lower from it. The problem now is that the next target is quite far. The next target after this would be this, and that's pretty far. So that's my only worry here, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Euro CHF, yeah, I remember that was on the interest list as well. It's just that we created a daily fair value up going against, so that's why I removed it from the interest list, but it still ended up playing out. But it's just not great. GBP CHF. That's not too bad actually, because we still have this piece of target to reach, which we will reach. That's the next target. I just don't see clear context here. It's not too clear. I'll put it on the interest list to keep an eye on it. But for now, for short term, it's not really interesting. New Zealand. Yeah, all the New Zealand dollar pairs just moved so much last week. So we have this swing high, which is the next target. I would like to wait. Maybe if we can create a daily fair value gap here, then this could be interesting. Let's see. Let's wait and see. Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. Mm, This is the next target. A little bit 50-50 on this one. I mean, we can definitely continue higher from this 4 hour fair value gap, but the daily time frame just doesn't look that good. Don't like what I'm seeing here. Let's put it on the interest list and wait, see how it develops. Euro Canadian dollar. Oh, that's just stuck in a consolidation. Nope. GBP Canadian dollar. Mm, This is also quite a big consolidation. Yeah, no, this is not great. And again, the New Zealand dollar pairs. Wow, It's actually crazy how much the New Zealand dollar pairs moved so much last week. Mm, no, I don't like it. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar does look good to continue higher because we just got the sting inside a monthly fair value gap. So maybe that can continue higher from there. But we need to keep in mind that there's also a monthly fair value gap down here, and there's another one down here. There's actually a lot of fair value gaps here. So which one is gonna move price higher? Is it gonna be the first one, the second? I definitely don't think it's gonna be the third one. But maybe the second one is a little bit higher probability in my opinion. Yeah, the second one should be the one to push price higher. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, overall, yeah, I do like this. Okay, well, let's keep an eye on it. Let's keep an eye on it. But for a short term, it's not interesting. Euro, New Zealand dollar moving lower. Kind of have a feeling that all the New Zealand dollar pairs are going to consolidate this week because they expanded so much last week that this week could be a consolidation to create some weekly fair value gaps across all the New Zealand dollar pairs. So no, that's just not great. And this is exactly the same thing. Yeah. So no. Then Euro, Australian dollar. I'm gonna try to go quickly here. I don't like these pairs. Um, massive consolidation on the daily. Nope. And GBP Australian dollar is the same thing. All right. Well, we have a couple ones, a couple interesting pairs here on the crosses. So we'll keep an eye on those throughout the week. And then when it comes to the dollar, well, the dollar is interesting and should be going higher next week with GU, EU, USD Canadian, and USD GPY that are on the interest list that could have some potential moves. Then gold lower for this week, silver lower as well. Crude oil, hard to tell. Again, I think it's going to go higher, but I could be wrong. It all depends on Trump's mood. Yep, yep. It all depends on Trump's mood. That's pretty sad to say, but it's the truth. And then Bitcoin lower for the week, and then the indices higher for the week. We're going to reach new all-time highs. So that's the recap of everything coming up this week. So again, I'll be doing daily forecast every single day this week, and well, I'll try my best. Okay, I'll try my best. I might not be able to do one on Tuesday night. But what I'll do is I'll just do a YouTube post with, my targets for the day and my bias overall. It might not be in a video, but I will still be doing a forecast Tuesday night. It's just that it might not be a video forecast. All right. But other than that, I should be able to make a forecast every single night this week. So yeah, that's it for this week. You know, trade safe, and I'll see you tomorrow in the daily forecast. All right. Thank you guys.